Hi everyone, this is Tanya from Flying Dog Studio. Thank you so much for joining me as I do another piece where I am going to be emulating the great Beatrix Potter. As you can see, I've already pre-drawn this piece out and I've put washi tape around the outsides. That is in anticipation of the watercolor coming up in the next video, and that will be out in about a week. And I'll explain a little bit more about that washi tape then if you haven't already seen that in my videos. For the pencil, I drew it out with a Lamy All-Star. Just use any pencil. That's just what I have on hand. I do love this though. This is the Tombow Mono Zero. This is their round eraser point, and I love that when I'm drawing things out. And when I'm finishing things up after inking, I like to use a kneaded eraser to get rid of all of my pencil marks. This is the pen that I use. Now, Beatrix would have probably used a dip pen, but this is the Pilot Falcon. My husband gave me this as a gift about a year ago, and I love this nib because it is a flexible nib, and that's very important if you're trying to get lines to look like Beatrix Potter's work. So let's get started. As you can see, I am doing this right-handed, so I'm starting in the upper left-hand corner. This will hopefully prevent me from smearing my artwork. Now, you do have to be careful when you're doing something kind of all over the place like this, because I tend to want to ink here and then I'll want to ink over there. And if I skip around too much, then I can end up drawing my hand through the wet ink. And speaking of the ink, this is a special ink. It has a lubrication in it that keeps it from freezing. Not that I live down south, it's not going to freeze, but it also keeps it from drying in the pen. And I leave this ink in all the time. I'm going to put down below because some of you have asked, and I don't particularly agree with the company, but I do love their ink, and I have a whole bottle and I don't use it often. So I'm going to be having this ink for quite some time, and I haven't found anything that really matches up to it. The color is called Polar Brown, and again, I won't mention the company here, but if you're interested, take a look in the description below, and I'll have a link for that. I believe I got it at Jet Pens. I get a lot of stuff at Jet Pens. As a matter of fact, I think my husband purchased this pen at Jet Pens. So brown ink, that is something that I noticed a long time ago studying Beatrix Potter's work, is that she used brown ink. And I could also see that in Cicely Mary Barker. Now, Cicely Mary Barker, a little more than Beatrix Potter, would go back and forth where part of her piece would be inked in and part would be just the pencil line. And that allowed for some depth in the piece. It created depth just by going from the lighter lines in the background being pencil and watercoloring those in, and then having the ink in the foreground. One thing that both of these ladies did was use variance and lines. So you're going to see thick lines and thin lines, and I'll do a close-up here in a little bit where you can really see how this nib will flex out when I put a little bit of pressure on it and make a wider line for me. And then when I pull up on the pressure, like right there, it creates a thinner line. Another way to create thinner lines, if you're using a fountain pen like this, is to either turn your pen nib on its side, and you'll see me do that occasionally, or turn it completely upside down. So it's like you're drawing with the back side of that nib, and it creates a thinner line. Now, that doesn't work just with these flexible nibs. It works with any type of fountain pen, and I've used that with some of my other fountain pens before, whether you're using a Lamy or a Pilot or whatever you're using. It actually works very well for getting thick and thin lines. And some people like variance in their lines, especially if they're doing like urban drawings. And I have seen artists roll their pens continually to get a little bit more variance in their lines and a little bit more spontaneity in their lines. So just something to think about if you're working on inking. I'm not going to do a lot of talking in this video, but I will come back on in a few minutes and talk a little bit more about some stuff that I'm doing and some stuff that's coming up. So hang in there with me. We're almost through this whole piece. So hang in there with me, and I'll hop back on after this brief musical interlude. throughout the piece, I have been working with my nib on the side, and I don't believe I've turned it upside down yet. But here is what I wanted to show you. See how when I apply just a little bit of pressure, it gives that thick to thin line. And I love having those weighted lines. And what the weighted lines do is add a little bit more depth and a little bit more interest. There's one thing though where I'm wanting to emulate Beatrix Potter and all of my stuff when I'm working with the fountain pen because I just love her work. But I decided, I need a refresher course. So I picked another piece. This is from my reference photo. This is from some flowers that my husband grew in the garden. I believe this is this year's flowers. And I wanted to go and do another study of her work because I'm not feeling the same inking. This is closer to Cicely Mary Barker. I'm not feeling the Beatrix Potter inking style in this as much. So I'm working on a piece right now that's Beatrix Potter's actual piece that she did. I got it from the Victoria and Albert Museum website, and I'm using that as my reference. And I realized I'm making a huge mistake. One way that Beatrix Potter creates depth and creates interest in her piece are broken lines. I have too many solid lines in my piece. So in a couple of weeks, I'm going to have an actual Beatrix Potter piece that I'm going to use as a reference. And you can see the difference in my inking here and in what I'm going to be inking that is her actual art. So Lord willing, that will come out in a couple of weeks. So I have that coming up. I also have the watercolor of this coming up next week, so be looking for that. I'm trying to post on Saturdays to be a little bit more consistent so you're not wondering when I'm going to be posting. And if you would like to follow along with me on this, let me know, and I'll be happy to add my reference photo along with my drawing on my blog, and you can download that. You can trace it, whatever you want to do. I don't care. I'm always happy when you guys follow along. So let me know in the comments below, and I'll be happy to get that out and put the link in for you. It may take me a bit once I see your comment, but I will get it up. So thank you so much for joining me here today. And if you've made it through the whole video, kudos to you. Let me know where you're from, because I'm seeing that you guys are from all over, and I would love to know where you guys are located. Now, the final thing in this whole process is to come back with that kneaded eraser and to erase all of the pencil lines. And I like the kneaded eraser, and let me say this too before I go on and say why I like it. Make sure your ink is dry, completely dry. This set for, gosh, I don't know, probably about 30 minutes, because this eraser, while it is gentle, and that's why I picked it, that's why I love kneaded erasers, for removing my pencil lines so I don't damage the integrity of my paper, you can rub the lines a little too hard. So that's why I love this, but let it completely dry. Otherwise, the whole thing of trying not to smear it while you're drawing will be for naught. So do keep that in mind. Again, thank you for being here. I hope you'll join me for the watercolor. But until then, my friends, I'll see you in the next one.